Hello and welcome to everyone. This is another edition of the webinar series of the Balkan History Association. Today's webinar is titled From January Uprising to the War in Ukraine, Andrej Potebnia and His Legacy. I'm the moderator. My name is Timothy French, and joining me today are Dr. Mateusz Kamionka and Dr. Maksym Potapenko. I'm going to tell you a little bit about this webinar, then I'm going to introduce our presenters. So in this webinar, Dr. Kamionka and Dr. Potapenko will focus on the historical figure of Andrej Potebnia, a Ukrainian officer of the Russian Empire, a revolutionary and a participant in the Polish January Uprising, who died in 1863 near Skała in the Olkusz region. The discussion will explore both Potebnia's biography and the evolution of narratives surrounding his national identity, as well as his place in Polish and regional historical memory from the 19th century to the present day. The speakers will examine primary sources from 1863 to 1917, interpretations developed during the Second Polish Republic, and the instrumental use of Potebnia's figure in propaganda during World War II and the communist era in Poland. An important part of the meeting will also present findings from field research conducted in 2025, highlighting the fragmented nature of contemporary local memory and generational differences in identifying Potebnia as either Russian or as Ukrainian. In light of current geopolitical developments, Potebnia will be discussed as a transnational symbol of resistance against imperial despotism and as a representation of solidarity among the nations of Central and Eastern Europe, expressed in the enduring slogan, "For our freedom and yours." So joining us today for this presentation is Dr. Kamionka, who has a PhD in social science and the discipline of political science and public administration, and is an assistant professor in the Department of Polish-Ukrainian Studies at Jagiellonian University in Kraków, Poland. He specializes in Polish-Ukrainian relations, security in Central and Eastern Europe, and the analysis of political awareness and identity among university students in Ukraine. He's a member of the board of the Polish Teachers Union. Also joining us is Dr. Maksym Potapenko, who holds a PhD in historical sciences and is an associate professor in the Department of History of Ukraine at Nizhyn State University. He researches the problems of interethnic relations in Ukraine in the 18th through 20th centuries, notably the history of the Polish, Armenian, and Jewish communities. Dr. Potapenko is a member of the Center for the Study of Armenian Culture in Poland at the Polish Academy of Sciences, a member of the Commission for the Study of Ukrainian-Polish Relations from 1917 to 1921, and a member of the editorial board of Lehahir, which is a journal devoted to the study of the history of Polish Armenians. After their presentation, there will be also time for a question and answer session. So with that, now I will turn the webinar over to our guest presenters, and we will begin with Dr. Potapenko. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Today, together with Mateusz, I would like to present the results of the research we have been working on over the past year. Our research had two parts. My parts focused on the questions, was Andrej Potebnia a Russian or Ukrainian revolutionary? Mateusz studied how Potebnia was remembered in Polish historical memory over the last 100 years. My research was based on historical study and archival documents. During the work, we found several important sources, including the service record of Andrej's father and original Andrej's letters to his parents. Andrej Potebnia is a well-known figure in historical scholarship. He was born in 1838 in Left Bank, Ukraine. He received a good military education and served in the Russian Imperial Army. During the Polish uprising of 1863, he joined the insurgents He was one of the leaders of the uprising and was killed in battle. When he died, he was 25 years ago. The Polish uprising of 1863 was one of greatest political crises for the Russian Empire in 19th century. In Ukrainian historiography and in world historiography, Ukrainians who took part in this uprising were often seen as people who betrayed the Ukrainian national idea. And Andrej Potebnia was often interpreted in this way as well. At the same time, many historians described him mainly as a Russian revolutionary. Because of this, Andrej Potebnia was often contrasted with his elder brother. At left, we can see Andriy, and at right, we can see his elder brother, Alexander. Alexander Potebnia. And Alexander was a famous philologist and an active participant in Ukrainian national movement. At that time, this movement was connected mainly with cultural organizations known as hromadas. Ukrainian historians also compared Andrej Potebnia with Volodymyr Antonovich, who moved away from the Polish political idea and joined the Ukrainian national movement. This compares to betrayals that are treated as equally important. In our research, we propose a different view of Andrej Potebnia. We argue that he should be seen not simply as a Russian revolutionary, but as a participant in the Ukrainian national movement. Together with his brothers, Alexander and Mykola, Andriy belonged to the radical wings of this movement. This group planned to organize a peasant uprising in Ukraine at the same time as the Polish uprising of 1863. They also coordinated their plans with Russian and Polish anti-imperial underground groups. For example, Mykola was a classmate of Serhiy Rymarenko, who was member of the governing board of radical revolutionary organization Land and Liberty, in Russian Zemlya и Voля. But Andriy played an important role in this contact. From his year in the Cadet Corps, he knew some of the leaders of the Polish uprising, including Zygmunt Sierakowski. He also had contact with Alexander Herzen, who was one of the main ideological figures behind the Russian revolutionary organization Land and Liberty. It is important to emphasize that both Polish and Russian opposition activities serve the Ukrainian movement as a force that could wake the Russian Empire. For this reason, they supported cooperation with Ukrainian activists. Another important detail is terminology. Alexander Herzen and Agaton Hiller, one of leaders Polish uprising, did not call Andrej Potebnia a Russian. They called him a Little Russian. In the language of the time, this meant a Ukrainian. During our research, we were also able to clarify several important facts about about Andrej Potebnia's biography. First of all, he was born in Romny, not in Perekopivka. This is a village not far from Romny. Second, his worldview was shaped not only by his military education, but also by family memory of the Cossacks' past. Third, he served not only in Schlüsselburg regiment, but also in the Simbirsk regiment. Both regiments come to Warsaw, the center of the Polish uprising, in 1861, not in 1856. This is a fact very popular in Russian and Ukrainian historiography. Before that, they had been stationed in the right bank Ukraine. Here you can see an example sorry, I have problem. Okay. Here you can see example of a letter written by Andrej's fathers to his uncle. The letter is written in Ukrainian. This is very interesting fact, and in it he described his illness. And in Ukrainian, не грай в цицибаби, нехай їм цур, тапек, бач, чортові цицибаби до чого довели, аж у ліжко був зліг, and etc. This is original Ukrainian language, start 19th century. During our archival research, we also found a very interesting document. I show this document. It is the first version of the poem Ukraine has not yet perished, in Ukrainian ще не вмерла Україна. This text, very interesting that this text was circulated by participants in the Ukrainian national movement among peasants in left bank Ukraine. The aim was to encourage them to rise up in 1863 at the same time as the Polish uprising. So our main conclusion is that Andrej Potebnia should not be viewed only as a Russian revolutionary or as someone who betrayed the Ukrainian cause. His biography shows a much more complex story. He was connected with the Ukrainian, Polish, and Russian anti-imperial movements, but the Ukrainian context was central to his identity and his political activity. As for me, the case of Andrej Potebnia demonstrates how difficult and how important it is to determine the national identity of 19th century political figures. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, and now I'm jumping, we can say. I make a second part of our presentation, and will more speak about Andrej Potebnia already after his death. And when we are thinking about Polish uprising, January Polish uprising, we have some heroes, and all of them, as you see, very famous: Zygmunt Sierakowski, Jarosław Dąbrowski, Zygmunt Podlewski, and or Romuald Traugott. And Różycki, this is like a heroes from the Polish uprising, and as well, all of them were officers in Russian army, as Potebnia was, and as well, all of them, they were not born in today Poland. Most of them were born in Ukraine. But when we are reading or hearing about Polish uprising, then we are most of his, like every historian will say that they are Polish. But for example, in case of Potebnia, some of them can say that Potebnia were Russian. And now I will answer the question: who the hell was Andrej Potebnia? Yeah, when I came back to the topic and started to make some research after his death, like literally in the year from the sources, I understood that he was named differently. In the first part, still when we had the Russian Empire, mostly Polish journals during from this time wrote that he was or Rusin, that is not connected to Russian. Rusin, it's like a person that live in the eastern part of Poland, Fourth Republic, but it's not the name is not connected to Russian. Rusin. It's more connected nowadays, we can say, to Ukrainian, or as Dr. Potapenko already said, Little Russian, that it's connected to Ukrainians during that time. Then when we, of course, sometimes there was as well word that maybe like he's a Russian, but mostly it was connected that he is Malorus or Rusin. Then between the wars in the Second Polish Republic, most of the sources were connected him already as Ukrainian. Then the words that were connected to Potebnia mostly based on their diaries of people that took part in uprising was already connected to as Ukrainian, and then only the narrative changed after the Second World War. The Russian propaganda and socialist government in Poland started to change the narratives, started to come back, or even made a new narrative named that Potebnia was a Russian revolutionary. And it was very useful for this new presentation. Why, for example, answering the question why the Red Army and the Soviets are now in Poland, and they were saying that Potebnia was the first Russian revolutionary Russian that were fighting together with Polish uprising, with the Tyrannia. But now tyranny, it's firstly it was Hitler, and then it was, of course, the collective West. And they use Potebnia as already as a symbol of Russian like fighting arm to arm with Poles, with the enemy. Sometimes I will maybe not come to very detailed information about that, but sometimes, for example, when there were during the communist period, there were some official delegation, for example, from Academia of Ukraine, like from Kiev, from university, they were trying to say that they were saying that he was one of ours. But they didn't say it straight. Then they didn't say that he was Ukrainian. They tried to say that he was one from others. But of course, all of them. There were Soviets. Then propaganda didn't understood what was under this underlying that. And the second thing was, for example, why Potebnia were famous and why they started to use Potebnia as some symbol. In 1953, a few months after the death of Stalin, in Poland, in Kraków, they wanted to make the days or the month of Polish-Soviet friendship. And they were looking for some heroes that can fit in this narrative. And as we know, Kraków was not in this part. Kraków was mostly, and most of part of Kraków land was occupied by Austro-Hungarian Empire, not the Russian. And this is the reason that they had a very problematic problem to find a hero that can fit in to be a symbol in this Polish-Soviet relation. But they understood that there was Potebnia that were killed by Tsar army in part of the new Kraków region, but that was before the First World War connected to Russian Empire. It was Olkusz region, and then this is the reason that they found him, and it was a very good. They used him as a symbol, as you see. The propaganda start. They, for example, first of all, they took his ashes from the graveyard there where he was from 1863, and they took it to the place near the Piaskowa Skała castle, where they made a stone grave, like a grave tomb, like the tombstone where they wrote that he was Russian. This on the left we can see this original tomb, and we see that there's the information that he was Russian. Only after the transformation on the right we can see that already they changed the name that he was Ukrainian, but they only changed it after the Polish transformation after 1989. This is as well the original place of where he had his grave, and as you see on this here there is already the information that he was Ukrainian. Because the communist propaganda make him a hero, as well some schools were named after his name. But it's very interesting fact that when I was looking for some documents about that, because one of the school is really not far away from the place that I'm now, and I didn't find any information, because even in the book about the school, and I'm showing now the picture, there's information that the school were made in 1963, but they even didn't add the name that that it was named, the first name it was Potebnia. They add only the second name, already rename after the transformation from Polish poet Maria Konopnicka. It means that people started to believe in some propaganda that he was really a Russian. And this is the reason when there was a change of government in Poland, transformation, some small school, in this case, they changed the name because they really were thinking that he is maybe some communist. On the left, we see the stamp with the old original name, the name Andrej Potebnia. But what is the interesting fact as well, that Potebnia was used in 2022 when the full-scale war started in Ukraine, in Olkusz region, then where he fall not far away, one of the center of humanitarian aid for Ukraine. You can see them on the right, maybe here as well. You can see his portrait, because he was as well a symbol of helping Ukraine during that time, because the volunteers were looking for some heroes, that were, as we said, connected to fighting with Russia. And this is things that were already made by us, and you will see Dr. Potapenko, maybe some on these photos as well. In 2023, on anniversary of the Polish Uprising, already it was 1 year of the full-scale war. I was trying to connect to the cities. One city was Skała, where the Potebnia were killed, and the second city were Olkusz, and we were trying to send humanitarian aid to the Romny city, the city where the Potebnia was born, to somehow as well underline this huge cooperation between the generation. And a few months ago, there is Dr. Potapenko and Professor Dechteriow on the photo. We made a small conference in city of Romny, where it's not far away from the nowadays like Sumy, it's Sumski Oblast in mostly like northeastern Ukraine, where we find the place that first of all his house, where the family of Potebnia live, and as well the place of baptism of the Potebnia. As you can see, this was this huge hospital. Inside there was a small chamber that he was baptized. And I made as well some small research connected to Potebnia. There's still 4 streets named after Potebnia in Poland. It's in Wrocław, Kraków, Jaworzno, and Skała. In Skała, I want to underline the place that he was killed in 1863. And there's different, it's because Wrocław and Kraków is a huge cities. Jaworzno, it's a smaller city, but the city is really not in the private housing. And in Skała, it's a city that only exists for a few years. And I made there a small research. I was asking the residents of the street. It was like 4 hours every street when I was there. I was asking a lot of questions connected to Potebnia, but not only to him. But I want to present 3 answers. The first, I think the crucial question is: do you know who was Andrej Potebnia? And as you see, 60% said that yes, they know. Only 11% said that no. But when I ask from who was, like, what is the origins of the Potebnia, then as you see, there's still more people that answer that he was Russian than Ukrainian. Even after like 30 years after the transformation, still people use like, or they base their knowledge about Soviet propaganda. But maybe the funniest part was when, and thanks to AI for this graphic, I asked them who was Andrej Potebnia, because they wrote that, like they answered that they know, like as we remember, more than 60%, as I remember, they said yes. And as you see, they said that he was an architect, a painter, an academician, a Soviet soldier who was fighting for Poland, someone from the Spring of Nation, maybe someone from the World War II, and lieutenant in the Polish army. Then, as you see, that people try to say that they understood who was Potebnia, but they really don't have a knowledge about that. From our research, of course, we are finishing now a book about Potebnia as well. There are some articles that in details we are more like saying about all this knowledge that we try to make in 30 minutes, 25 minutes right now. But definitely you can say that Andrej Potebnia is like a symbolic figure in the Polish like bilateral Polish-Ukrainian relation, and it definitely should be a person that should be more popular and that should be really in the pantheon of people that were fighting for Poland and for Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Thank you to both of you. That was very interesting, and I have so many questions that have popped into my mind already as far as his legacy. So, if you don't mind, I'd just like to begin with a question, just to try to get to again to who Potebnia was. So he had been in the Tsar's army. He was in the Tsar's army. He joined the Polish uprising. So was he anti-Tsarist, or was really the land and liberty movement just about wanting the Tsar to make reforms?
Mm-hmm. Max, you want to answer, or
Oh, he's muted.
yeah, um,
No, he's
it's,
unmuted. Okay.
do you want to
Mateusz,
answer? Okay.
My English very bad.
Okay, I will answer. Of course, first of all, Potebnia from our research, it's not only a person like mostly his brother, and there was still in Ukraine during that time, and this is like official knowledge that most of Ukrainian activists wanted to make it, as you said, as some liberal changes maybe in the country, in the Tsar Imperium, but. From our knowledge and from the information that we are getting from archives, and not only, we are seeing Potebnia as a leader of new movement who were, for example, supporting Polish uprising movement. Yeah, and Polish uprising movement have only one goal: to have the Polish to be independent. And definitely, I think that the work that he did mostly it was connected to not only help Poles, but as well to after there may be victory and trying to make the country. After that, he were planning to make the independent Malorus, or country that we don't know now how it should be even named because of the 19th century. But definitely we can say that he was a person that was fighting for some sovereignty of his country. Max didn't add it, but because we didn't have so much time. But one of his brother were working on Russian-Ukrainian dictionary as well. And it's very interesting because like the dictionary of Ukrainian Russian is showing that we are different, because the official narrative during the 19th century was that that, for example, Ukrainian language was the village language, the countryside language, not something different. And when we see that his family, but not only he and his environment, were making more and more things like that, making preparing the uprising in Poland, as well using the countryside in left bank Ukraine mostly to make maybe some protests during the Polish uprising, because for them it was a huge opportunity that maybe it can work. It's like the Polish uprising was a huge problem for Tsar Empire. It was the same, for example, that a bit earlier the Belgium exists, because during the November uprising, like 30 few years before, the Tsar army were mostly concentrated to destroy Polish uprising, and they didn't help the Belgian like to not make the revolution there. That it was really one of the best moments that I think Potebnia realized, and not only Potebnia but as well all the nations. Like for example, Herzen, of course, he has a bit different view. But we should underline that even inside of the white Russian revolutionaries, still was different interest in that how it should be like. But definitely, Poles had one goal: to make Poland independent. And I think Potebnia supporting this idea was showing himself as a person that were supporting this narrative.
I think that what you said there already sort of answers one of the questions I had then. So, with Potebnia supporting the Polish uprising, when Tsar Alexander II did the emancipation of the serfs, it would seem like if the whole goal was just reform, that would have stopped a lot of the uprisings, because maybe people would think they're getting the reforms. But ending serfdom would have done nothing to provide Poles their own country. So the Polish uprising continued.
Exactly, and as well, we should underline that we're still talking about 19th century, and it's more like Eastern Europe. It's already a bit like totally different situation we had in the Western Europe, where already this nation building movements exist a lot. And we are talking about the region that's still mostly about I'm saying about countryside, that still people were mostly connected to their religion and tradition, not maybe so much to some political thoughts. Poles had some different view, because we had the First Polish Republic, of course, that they were wanted to rebuild. But even the question if the Poles should cooperate, for example, with other nations that were taking part in the First Republic, like Russians, like Ukrainians or Marodus, it shows that it was not so easy. This is the first thing. And the second thing as well, and this is the most maybe a bit problematic thing in this relation, was how this new country should look like. Because as we know, the First Polish Republic was a huge country that were inside Lithuania, Belarus, Ukraine, Poles, and as well, definitely, I think all of people during that time did not know how this huge country should look like after the collapse of Tsar Empire. And the question was, how it should be the border, but even after the First World War, we came back to this question. And we are saying still about the second part on the 19th century, and definitely more like peasants, we can say, people that live in the villages, even in like the most, we can say, national building territory, like was like Poland. They were not so much supporting the uprising as well. Then this was mostly a question about elites. And I want to underline one more thing, that definitely elites were different in Poland, even in Ukraine, because as we know, Ukraine were during that time, the region of Ukraine was much more Russificated than, of course, Polish territory. And maybe the second thing as well, that we should underline, that the Polish territory was more western, and they had borders with other countries that, of course, like much bigger. That was a lot of help during the uprising, maybe for example with transit some ammo or weapons, yeah, the smuggling of that for example Ukraine didn't have as much opportunity.
Also, if there's a question for the audience, you can raise your hand. From the audience, you could raise your hand and you can jump in and ask a question. I wanted to ask also about the idea of history and memory. So it would seem that Potebnia was, I guess, Tsarist Russia would have seen him as an enemy. And then you say the Soviet Union, Soviet Russia, would have seen him as a hero because he went against the Tsar and was for land reform and these things. And then in the days after communism fell, I would assume now he's looked at as maybe Ukrainian and as an enemy again within Russia. Is that how it would go?
Um, Yeah, let's first of all, yeah, of course, from Tsar, like Tsar Russia, he was a betrayer. Yeah, that he was not only support Polish uprising, but he was Tsar officer. That he was like he was the biggest enemy of the Russian army because he was not only like a normal soldier. Yeah, he was an officer that went to another side. This is the first thing, and as well, he was not count as a Pole. Yeah, and this was because somehow we can understand that okay, Polish uprising, then of course Polish Tsar officers went to other side like to join the partisan or the uprisers, yeah. But he was not a Pole. That I think that it's even worse in the narrative of the Tsar Empire during that time, and I think till now. Um, in the Soviet times, of course, and I read it in some sources. Like they started to see to compare like a Hitler, the biggest enemy, and the Tsar as well, the capitalist enemy. Then more or less we had, and there even were some sources saying that then we have like we were fighting with Hitler as they were fighting with the Tsar, that was this tyranny of bourgeoisie, etc. That they use the Potebnia like that. Nowadays, in my opinion, Potebnia, it's more question about how the politic memory is now working in Russia. Because as we know, there's a Stalin painting in the churches, Orthodox churches, yes. And now it's very hard to answer that. This is more like philosophical question for Russians, if because on one hand he was a socialist and revolutionary, and on the other hand he was anti-Tsar. But nowadays, the Russians they like Tsar and they like revolutionists as well. And it's hard to say. Definitely, they will not say that he was fighting for independent Ukraine, because this is the thing that I think that they are scared the most. But if I can say it straight, it's like I don't know a lot of nowadays works on based or about Potebnia in Russian books or in Russian some articles. The topic is like for most of the people, this topic were already closed. Yeah, the people were. This is the thing that we found a lot of sources, a lot of archives, because for most of the people, they were thinking that okay, Potebnia were dead, and we already know everything, but they were looking on Potebnia only from the glasses of a like revolutionary. And then, yes, I'm agree. To see a Potebnia as a revolutionary, it's enough. We cannot find anything else. But seeing him as a member of the movement for independent, even we can say like Ukraine, or supporting independent, even Poland, it's totally different view and totally different perspective. And this is the thing that researchers didn't make.
So did you say you have a both of you collaborated on a book and there will be a book published about Potebnia?
Yeah, we are working on it. We are trying to finishing it, but the problem is that we have more and more knowledge about him. Yes, there's like nowadays is a huge problem with for Dr. Potapenko. The biggest problem nowadays is of course archives in Ukraine, because of the situation, the war situation that we have in Ukraine, and this is the reason a lot of archives are closed, or they're open only in a few hours, or there's the air alarm and then they are closing it. And even going somewhere to some archives is a huge problem, but for me as well, because for example I see that Potebnia, life of Potebnia, of his legacy, is still alive, and we are doing that as a people that for example making a conference about that. Thanks that we made the conference in Romny, we found his house where his family live, because the local historians, they said that, oh, we know where is his house, but it was not a wide known knowledge in books, or within or in some other academia. And this is the reason we doing more. We are getting more and more information about his legacy, and this is the reason we already have 90, yes, Max, 95% of the book, but still we are finishing it. But yeah, we know that we should finish it soon.
Well, when your book is finished, I look forward to reading it. So I guess we will probably close on this. I was just going to ask each of you if you had any closing thoughts. Dr. Potapenko, did you have any closing comments or things you would like to say? Or how about you, Dr. Kamionka? Do you have any closing thoughts or comments?
First of all, thank you very much for this opportunity, because in my opinion, knowledge about Potebnia, it's super interesting example of different view of politic memories, and in mostly very problematic region like Central Europe, and I think that more scholars should look on the historian person like Potebnia from this different inter countries, we can say, perspective.
Thank you again for your time and for a very interesting presentation. And thanks to Dr. Mihai Dragnia of the Balkan History Association. And thanks to both of you, Dr. Potapenko and Dr. Kamionka, for joining us today. We appreciate your time, and we will be putting this up on YouTube tomorrow. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Much.
Thank you. Good night. Bye-bye.